understand my limitations when it comes to curating as well as hosting discussions on topics in social justice and Indian classical music. I would just like to say that the event that we're holding today comes at a really meaningful time. It is in the United States. It is June, which is LGBTQIA Equality Month or Pride Month. And I feel like this month is often one of the most open celebrations of imagination. It is a time where gender euphoria and celebrations of queerness really define where we can push ourselves to better understand inclusivity and how we can express different versions of ourselves, especially in the arts. However, simultaneously, I am holding on to the fact that just this morning, Roe v. Wade was overturned, thereby posing a huge challenge in the United States to all uterus holders of all genders, but with a specific target towards cisgender women. And it begs the question that even in the United States, while we're having these profound moments of authenticity and being able to explore ourselves in the arts, what happens when the institutions around us continue to entrench us in these systems of oppression that leave people out of important social justice conversations and indeed out of having access to basic human rights? It could be said that the same discussion is happening in South Asian classical music. While we are exploring, for example, how women, queer people, and indeed people of all genders and sexual expressions can be part of, say, the Indian classical music genre, are we also then perpetuating, or do we also allow there to be perpetuated the erasure of non-Hindu voices, non-Brahminical voices? Surely, as we look at the way that Hindu nationalism is developing in India, driven by Brahminical patriarchy, we have to examine within ourselves the truth of this, that in order for us to imagine a better world, and in order for us to really think about all the possibilities that are open to everybody who would like to be included in our music, we must also look inward, be introspective, and be honest with ourselves about where in our community, and indeed where in our understandings of South Asian classical music, we enable systems of oppression to continue. And we also continue to flatten the understanding of what this music could look like. For this reason, I am so absolutely honored and thrilled to be having this event, which is, I would say, curated and hosted by actually a former panelist from our series on caste politics in South Indian percussion. I'm so honored that Reverend Immanuel Karunakaran has become not only an expert voice on these causes within the United States, but has also become a friend of mine with whom I can have deeper discussions on where we can unwork these hierarchies within ourselves. With that, I would like to welcome everyone to this event, Towards an Inclusive Music, Breaking Hierarchies and Making Music Beyond Structures, curated and organized by Reverend Immanuel Paul Karunakaran. Joining him on this panel today will be both phoning in from Chennai, Reverend C.R.Samson Rasa, a priest at the Church of South India in the Diocese of Madras since 2005. He, along with his wife, Reverend K. Samson, have been community leaders and expert instructors, passing on the folk traditions of Dalit communities in Tamil Nadu. He is the recipient of the Bharat Kala Ratna Award for his work transforming Dalit arts into voices of liberation. We are also joined from Chennai by Mrs. Kani Muthu Selvi, a theological student at CSI Madras Diocese, currently pursuing a master's in theology in the New Testament. She is a musician and a composer integrating folk aesthetics into her work. We are so honored to have all three of you here today. And just as a note for our viewers, since this is a live streamed event, we invite, if this conversation becomes heavy or you need a moment to process, please feel free to pause at any point. We invite being able to pause, rewind, re-interact with this discussion, however feels best to you. I would also just like to remind our audience to be respectful of the occasional connectivity issues that may arise as our panelists are all phoning in from different places, and we are so thankful for that. We would also just like to remind everyone that the lingua franca chosen for this particular event, and indeed all Brooklyn Raga massive events, because of our predominantly American audience, will be English. However, I would like to just invite that we respect that this is a colonial and colonizer language that all of us might have differing familiarities with. So if there are any language barrier issues that arise, please allow us some time to process that and translate that internally amongst ourselves. With that, I would like to turn this event over to the esteemed Reverend Immanuel Karunakaran and invite all of our panelists to further introduce themselves and just have this wonderful discussion with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amita, for the wonderful introduction about all of us. And I'm grateful to Brooklyn Raga Massive for giving us this space and continue to engage in the social justice series. I'm glad that our colleagues from India joined in this panel talk. And thank you for mentioning it, how this Hindu nationalism is rising back in India and also elsewhere throughout the world. So there is no one such religion, and that's our faith and our belief that everybody needs to be respected equally. Those who embrace their own spiritual identities and faith identities. Thank you so much for this wonderful time that you have given to us. And as I mentioned in the theme, that how we're going to talk about to make music beyond structures. Um, I've been involved in this music from my seminary days, and um, prior to me, the engagement with the Dalit communities as well as music making is part of Reverend Samson. Uh, he's more senior than me in doing this, and I recently found out that Kani is also taking up the music making by herself, and that's something very important. And the main thing that we wanted to make sure the audience understand is that um, we are not trained musicians, we are folk musicians, which means we are people musicians. We produce music from people's experience, from people's agony and pain, and also we need liberation, and that's the whole point of making music beyond, not within the structures, but liberated from all the structures, which is very important for us. And I believe that music is divine. Music has the power and potential to liberate all of us from the clutches of our caste identities and religious identities. So I believe that the divine is with us now, and I'm asking both of my colleagues, Reverend Samson and Ms. Kani, to introduce themselves. I would go by one so that you may understand who they are and where they come from. I request Reverend Samson to introduce him with his music and then tell about him, and then Ms. Kani to sing a song for us and then tell about her. Over to Samson.
Thank you, Reverend Immanuel Karunakaran. And also, I'd like to thank Amita and Brooklyn, and also our sister Kani Muthu. I am already, I was introduced by Immanuel and Amita. I'm Reverend Samson Rasa from Diocese of Madras, and my wife, Reverend C.R.Samson. Both of us are doing ministry for the sake of marginalized people, particularly to liberate from all kind of discrimination. We have 3 children. They're all college-going students. Then I sincerely work on the folk, particularly folk arts, particularly Parai. I would like to introduce Parai and also how I could involve in music Parai as a mother of all rhythmic instruments. And also it is my passion to continue my ministry with the Parai. This is what my first introduction. Then I will come later with some important news from Parai life. Thank you.
You can sing now the song.
Yeah. உசுருக்குள் உசுரான உறவு நம்ம உறவுதான் வசக்குள் இதமான மறி கொழுந்து வாசந்தான் உசுருக்குள் உசுரான உறவு நம்ம உறவுதான் மனசுக்குள் இதமான மறி கொழுந்து வாசந்தான் மாயமாக மயானம் போல வெறிச்சோடி போனதென்ன மது பிறந்த மையத்தாக மாறிப்போன மாயமென்ன மாயமாக மயானம் போல வெறிச்சோடி போனதென்ன மத பிறந்து மையத்தாக மாறிப்போன மாயமென்ன மாறிப்போன மாயமென்ன மாறிப்போன மாயமென்ன மனசுக்குள்ள கோபம் வந்து பொண்ணு போட நினைச்சாலும் மேல வச்ச பாசம் வந்து வந்து வரசுதுன்னு மனசுக்குள்ள கோபம் வந்து பொண்ணு போட நினைச்சாலும் மேல வச்ச பாசம் வந்து வந்து வரசுதுன்னு வந்து வந்து வரசுதுன்னு நெசமாவும் நிலக்கண்டு நான் தான் உணர்ந்தேனே வசமான பிடியில் இருந்துவோம் உசுர மீட்டு காத்துன்னு மலை போலுன் பாரமேற்ற நான் பாராமுகமானேனோ மதல போல சுமந்த கைக்கு நீ துரோகம் செய்ய துணிந்தாயே துரோகம் செய்ய துணிந்தாயே துரோகம் செய்ய துணிந்தாயே மனசுக்குள்ள கோபம் வந்து பொண்ணு போல நினைச்சாலும் மேல வச்ச பாசம் வந்து வந்து உரசுதுன்னு மனசுக்குள்ள கோபம் வந்து பொண்ணு போட நினைச்சாலும் மேல வச்ச பாசம் வந்து வந்து உரசுதுன்னு வந்து வந்து உரசுதுன்னு வந்து வந்து உரசுதுன்னு கல்லுப்பட்ட கள்ளி செடியா நாளும் ரத்தம் வடுகிறேனே கங்கணம் கட்டி கல்ல மேலும் வீசி ரசிக்கிறிய கல்லுப்பட்ட கள்ளி செடியா நானும் ரத்தம் அடைகிறனே கங்கணம் கட்டி கல்ல மேலும் வீசி ரசிக்கிறிய கங்காணி கண்ணை குத்தி களவு செய்ய துடிக்கிறிய கனப்பொழுதில் போங்குற மரப்ப மனம் மாறி வருவாயே மனம் மாறி வருவாயே மனம் மாறி வருவாயே மனசுக்குள்ள கோபம் வந்து பொண்ணு போட நினைச்சாலும் மேல வச்ச பாசம் வந்து வந்து வரசுதன்னு வந்து வந்து வரசுதன்னு வந்து வந்து வரசுதன்னு. Thank you.
That was awesome. Thank you so much for that song. And I now invite Kani to introduce herself and with her music.
Good morning and good evening, everyone who have joined in this online event. And I thank Amitav and Bhati who gave a warm welcome and introduction to us. And also I thank Emmanuel Anna for giving me this opportunity to take part this wonderful event. I'm Kani Muthu Selvi. Right now, I actually belong to CSM Madras Diocese, and now I'm doing my Master of Theology in the Department of New Testament at Gurukul Lutheran Theological College and Research Institute. I used to write songs my own, and I compose, and I present according to the contextual challenges, the contextual realities. So the recent song which I composed for um, International Women's Day is that I'm going to present now. The meaning of it is actually a bhajan, and the meaning of the bhajan goes like this. We praise you, God, with the songs of melody. We praise you, our Creator God, who created women and made them to be praised on the earth. You came to the world and kept women as a crown of humanity without any differences and discrimination. We praise you, our Prince of Peace, who proclaim justice and equality. Provide us wisdom to live a life by celebrating women. So now the bhajan. சரணம் சரணம் இறையே சரணம் சந்ததம் மங்களம் மங்களம் சரணம் 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 இறையே சரணம் சந்ததம் மங்களம் மங்களம் சரணம் சந்ததம் மங்களம் மங்களம் சரணம் சமநீதி சமத்துவம் மொழிந்தாய் சரணம் சமநீதி சமத்துவம் மொழிந்தாய் சரணம் சமாதான சுதன் இயேசுவே சரணம் சமாதான சுதன் இயேசுவே சரணம் பேதங்கள் இன்றியே பிரிவினை இன்றியே மாதரால் மானுடம் மாண்புற தோன்றினே பேதங்கள் இன்றியே பிரிவினை இன்றியே மாதரால் மானுடம் மாண்புற தோன்றினே மாதரால் மானுடம் மாண்புற தோன்றினே மாதரால் மானுடம் மாண்புற தோன்றினே. Thank you.
That was awesome. Thank you so much for the song, and the meaning of the song is very important at our times now. And the meaning of Reverend Samson Raza's song is it's between the husband and wife or the spouses. Um, one is being angry to the other, and the love still continues to hold them together, and that's the meaning of the song. It's all like very importantly we
Reverend,
see this song as
excuse me, Iman.
yeah, open your
Yes.
camera now.
Yeah. Sorry for the interruption. And this song also sing about the relationship between God and the people. Yeah.
Yeah, so the idea
மனசுக்குள்ள
of
கோபம் வந்து.
Christian faith is God is
Bride and groom.
bride and the groom. So thank you so much for bringing in that aspect. uh, the reality of people's music is always very connected, and it is from their experience, and that's what we wanted to tell to the audience that it is very common, open, liberative approach towards each other and towards God. Sometimes there are songs. I know that there are songs which is very bad words, like filthy words, using scolding God, because people from Dalit community scold God uh, because if their prayers are not answered, they go and ask God with an anger. And that is how their relationship with God and the deity. This is also very important in our times, that see why we, uh, what are we doing as Christians with this people's music? What is our faith and why we engage in this way? And as Amit said in the introduction about Hindu nationalism, Ambedkar said that he will not die as a Hindu. Uh, you know why, and many of you may not know why, because of the caste practices that still says holding on to this power structures, uh, segregating people, and that's the that's the main question for Ambedkar, that he could not take up being a Hindu, and he wanted to be a Christian, but uh, the Christian church couldn't escape caste system. We are not saying that there is no caste practices in Christian church today, but still we are trying to eradicate caste system from the church, and that is how our total engagement with people and the people's movement started. And this music is also part of that. There are pioneer work have been done by many theologians. One among them is Paratai Theophilus Apavu, who is no more now, but his legacy and his music contribution is continue to live with the people. And Reverend Samson Rasa is one of the Paratai's product, and he himself called himself as Irai Paratai, uh, uh, meaning that he is the son of uh, Paratai, follower of Paratai, and also God. So that is another aspect of how we as Christians engage in fighting against this caste. I have some couple of questions about music. Music is always divine, as I said in the earlier comments. I would like to ask some questions to our panelists and see what are their response to the questions of our times. The question that I wanted to make them answer is to what is music for them, and how they got introduced to the music, what music they liked, uh, what music they don't like. I invite Kani to respond first, and then Reverend Samson.
Thank you, Anna. Uh, I actually thank for the topic, first of all. The topic itself says that towards inclusive music. Yes, actually, for me, the music is dynamic, interacting behavior that communicates the inner emotions of human beings. Actually, through this topic, inclusive music, we come to know that there is a diversity in music. So here, what we need to understand is um, the music is one, but the culture is different. Since the music is one, there's nothing to be neglected or nothing to be avoided. So actually, music unites differences. So this is the way that we need to understand. Moreover, we know that diversity is merely God's divine design. So variety of musics are the evidences of the beauty of sound. Actually, in that way, we need to understand music. For example, A.R. Rahman, he says that music is the ultimate mother of languages. So from this, we come to know that music unites languages. So at last, it is clear that the music is the uniting force in the context of diversity. So this is the way I understand music, and music is a tool of liberation. Also, it is a voice for the voiceless people. So this is the way that I understand music.
Thank you, Kani. Now let's move on to Reverend Samson Rasa's understanding.
Yes. Thank you once again to all the panelists. Music is a music. I like all kind of music because it is very close, heartful relate to all the people, not only people, even all the creations. Because music has no language, music has no any other particular identity. So I like all kind of music, but I don't like the hierarchy in music system in the name of pure and impure. That is what I strongly believe. The parai, the origin of all kind of music, and it is also a mother of all rhythmic instrument, because in ancient people used parai in many ways. The parai, also we know about the meaning of parai, to speak and to communicate. And it is also one of the earliest rhythmic instrument dating back to prehistoric times. Even in Tolkappiyam, a Tamil grammar book written before the Christian era, mentioned the parai as a standard musical instrument for many occasions. The parai is a relic of anthropological remains of progressive human civilization. Originally, we know about the early human beings are lived in caves of hills as hunter-gatherers. The exercise from the remain of curses from hunting was experimented with for a drumming instrument, and parai was invented. Even Sangam literatures also mentioned the parai is a very important music instrument, but it was only later, about 14th century, I think, it referred the parai called tappu. Nowadays also many people called tappaattam, tappu. It is actually wrongly in meaning, because tappu means inauspicious, that means non-rhythmic. To derogate or decrease Tamil arts, comparing with other classical instruments during the 14th century, particularly in Vijayanagara rule of Tamil land. Musical instruments such as the ancient parai was scorned and contemplative as Vijayanagara empires side with the hegemons and the castes and also corrupted the Tamil cultures. We know about the Parai is also much like Bharatanatyam as a caste aligned history in the Tamil Nadu. The instrument has for time immemorial been associated with the Dalit community, resembling a flat bird cut from the wood of a neem tree and in the shape of an arc. The parai is a hollow drum played by two sticks, two different length and a different thickness, usually accompanied by a dance called the attam, the performance called the paraiyattam. So this instrument is only the instrument with the movement, attam and waiting, the rhythmic beat and rhythmic dance along with the music. So that is what I like very much for a instrument other than all the uh, other classical instruments or other any other rhythmic instruments. That is what I would give more preference to Parai, and I would like to reach Parai to all the people, those who are even unknown even today. That is what this is what my ambition and my passion. I like Parai very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the historical roots of finding Parai and connecting that to why you like that. And thank you so much for bringing that. I'd like to move on to the next question. Like as Kani said that there is only one music but different cultures. How do you see the music with hierarchies? As Samson Rasa already pointed out, there is hierarchy of seeing music as pure and impure. Where do you locate in this identity of your music? Like, is it impure or it's pure? What is? How do you contrast? What is the contrast that we can understand? Why there is a hierarchy? How do you understand this, and how do you reflect on this particular area? Why there is hierarchy in music?
Yeah, there are hierarchies that we cannot neglect that. Um, so we overtly say that westernization is the biggest threat to the music world. So when Western music get into the practice of the religious practices, so that starts the problem. There starts the problem. So it create a kind of domination in our church singing that we all know. For example, hymns and what we can say pamalai and even kirtanai. So these kind of musics are given priority in the worship services in our today's context. Other folk musics are not given being part of the worship services, and they are just treated like kind of low class music. So that way people mindset goes along with this, that the Western musics are the high level of music, and the other music, folk musics, are under that. Yeah, of course, folk musics are given importance when, if we see in the special occasions, children, youth, and women in that kind of situations, occasions, people are motivated to present the folk musics and all. So in that way, we can clearly see that there is a hierarchy, because the folk musics, they brought out the ground reality and the state of oppression and the dominion over the margins. So these are all the things, or the common factor for avoiding the folk musics in our community, in our society. So in that way, people also think that the Western musics are the pure or the ultimate music, and the other folk musics, indigenous musics, are the lowest level of music.
Thank you. Yeah, I heard you saying we cannot neglect the hierarchy. What do you mean by saying that? Sometimes, do you mean to say that um, we are we are still holding on to the hierarchies, or do we need to fight against the hierarchies? What do you say?
Yeah, there is a space to fight against the hierarchy. So we need to create some ways, in what all the ways we can move forward with our folk musics. There is no difference between folk music and Western music. In that way, we cannot even avoid the Western musics also. So it gives separate meaning, and it gives a different meaning for the people's life, emotion, and all. And the folk musics are also part of this human behavior, human emotions, and all. So these two will be equally should be equally treated in the minds of the people. So in that way, we should create the space for them.
Thank you. Creating the space is very important, and thank you for sharing. And as we talk about this in the Brooklyn Raga Mass, is important space for us, creating awareness and creating a space for people to come to us and listen from us what is music. And thank you so much, Kani, for challenging us with this engagement of how we can going to be how we are going to be creating spaces. Yeah, thank you so much. And I would like to move on to the next panelist, Samson. Uh, so, as you already mentioned, that there is impure and pure. How can we fight against this hierarchy, and what could be done, both in the society and in the church? Because as Kani mentioned, that she did not say about the Brahminical music. She mentioned about the Western music, which is actually very important for Christians. Christians are very much interested in singing hymns and Western music than the folk music, than and also the Brahminical Carnatic music. But I heard Kani singing a bhajan, which is really a Carnatic way of approaching our God. It's Carnatic way of singing bhajan. I know the context where she wrote this, because Gurukul is an ecumenical institution, as well as its engagement with the interfaith is very important. I'm not very sure about whether she knew the ragas and the tala, about what she wrote and what she composed. It's all about our own way of singing. I have done many things like that, and I do not know about the ragas and tala, but I do composed many bhajans while I was in Gurukul. So thank you. I would like to move on to Reverend Samson for his response.
Thank you, Reverend Imman. My experience is very different from our sister Kani's experience,
Mm.
because Kani used to tell about only uh, folk and Western music. But here, not only here, throughout the world, the musical war between folk and the classic, not with Western. Western always a kind of friend of folk arts, because Western musical instruments are maximum. Even the drums and other instruments are all made up of by skin of animals. The pure and impure problem is arised from only Carnatic or Western or Brahmanical classical music only. From there only the music also seen by in the name of hierarchy. When I was in my childhood, I was deeply rooted in rhythmic player, because our family are all well beaten the parai. I was also playing with tumblers, spoons, and small buckets and drums. These are all. Every one of our family members played the parai. And so I went with them always. Usually I went with them. They played at funerals only when I was a childhood. We would start at the night time and go on till in the early morning. Continuously they were played. When the players get tired, they got only little bit time, the interval period. Then suddenly they would start a play. So continuously whole night they were playing. What a kind of energy it is. I was noticed that. At that time, I was noticed some other activities also. The owner of the funeral or the family were never touch our people, even were never touched the instrument of parai also. They treated like slave. I noticed why the parai always used in funerals. That was my question when I was a childhood. But finally, when I entered into teenage, I searched many things about parai. The parai was also used in multiple other reasons in Sangam times, like warning people about an upcoming battle, requesting civilians to leave the battlefield, then announcing victory or defeat, stopping a breach of water body, gathering farmers for farming activities, warning wild animals about people presence, as well as percussions during festivals, weddings, celebrations, worship of nature, and so forth. These are all I found in the Tamil Sangam literatures itself. And its other uses included to announce the king's proclamations and to communicate information from the place to place by playing codified notes for a purpose, particular purpose. Then only when I was plus one or plus two at a stage, when I was a teenage, I would decide, I would replace this drum from funeral to wedding ceremony. This was my, this was my ambition. From impure to pure, from untouchable to touchable. And in that how that is how only I learned this parai in my earlier stage. I have been working towards it with a lifetime goal also. Even though I was accustomed to playing the parai from my early stage, I learned the formal way through a master called Velu Asan at TTS, Arasaradi, Madurai, Tamil Nadu. And the inspiration which was brought from our professor called Paratai, our mentor, Reverend Dr. Theophilus Appavu, who was served as a professor of communication department in Tamil Nadu Theological Seminary. For the past 30 years, I noticed we have been used parai in the worship of folk music called Grami Isai Vadibade in our special occasions. Even in the church, by the race of Paratai only, it was possible, I think. So, from untouchable to touchable, from funeral to wedding, from impure to pure, we would like to take parai from the ground of impurity or from the ground of negligence. This is what my passion. That is what I am continuously learning parai with the different sound, with the different dancing moment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Reverend Samson, for actually touch base.
And also I would like to say something about other music, Western and classical. I also composed Western songs, and I also composed classical songs. I know very well, even though I prefer for folk arts only because these two kind of arts are neglected continuously, the folk arts. That is what I prefer for folk. Thank you.
Thank you for taking sides. Actually, that's very important. You mentioned about Parai being played in their funerals and the reclamation of Parai in the wedding as an auspicious occasion, in the Tamil tradition. Thank you for bringing in that aspect, which is very important. Like, yeah, because it's been in the history, and still people think that if somebody is playing Parai, somebody is dead. That is how they connect Parai. I'm, I'm, I'm just moving beyond that, and I would also like to ask this question: how do this Parai is being associated with Tamil literature? And I'm very sure that the Tamil literature is also sometimes very, 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 very Brahminical and hierarchical, mostly patriarchal, which is also having. I don't. I'm personally, I don't like Tamil literature when we connect Parai with Tamil literature, because Parai has been identified as an oppressed art form. ஒடுக்கப்பட்ட மக்களின் இசையாக மாத்திரமே பார்க்கப்பட்டதாக தான் நான் அதை கருதுறேன். I just spoke in Tamil saying that it is identified as only the music of the oppressed, not with the Tamil community. And recently this um, hijacking of this identity of oppressed to Tamil is happening predominantly. Uh, uh, which is actually disheartening for me, because I don't see it's Tamil literature's contribution, even though there are literature, Sangam literature, This Sangam literature is also coming from the hierarchies, which I don't know. There are Dalit literatures still reclaim the real auspicious uh, beauty of our aesthetics of Parai right now, and continuing with your work, Reverend Rasa, that you're doing. Is appreciable. Thank you so much for doing that. I would like to just move on to other questions so that we give some time for the audience to ask us questions. We spoke about how we understood music and what are all the hierarchies we see in the music. But now, what is your suggestion? What is your move towards making music beyond structures and hierarchies? As you said, that I don't want to be neglected, so I choose this art form of people's music by the dominant Western and Brahminical music. So, is it the neglection of one of the other, or are we going to incorporate it in an inclusive way? How that is possible? For example, we've been doing this Dalit art in the liturgy for many years, but we failed to bring it in our churches, which is it is exactly what the problem is. We cannot sing Parai music song in a church setup, can we? And we can, but some, not all the time, but only in some occasions. But there are Pentecostal movements where they move towards drumming and singing, neglecting the liturgy of the mainline churches. There are liberations still happening in the church. So, what are all your suggestions, Kani and Reverend Rasa, about breaking barriers, breaking the structures? How can we do that? What are the acceptance that you need or we need in order to make this more inclusive? It's not just uh, there are, I know people whom uh, they, they identify themselves as Dalits, as well as uh, they learned Carnatic music in the music academy. One such friend is Jacob Javaraj, who passed away recently. Um, I remember him fondly at this time, that he is a master in Carnatic music and also Dalit music. So, uh, yeah, but he unfortunately died, and it is all because of the music, the love has the he had for music. You know, is also part of the life that he eventually underwent. So, so what are all the suggestions, Kani?
Um, yes, Anna. Um, I already said that there are possibilities to break those hierarchies between the musics. Um, First of all, we should create a open-minded space in the minds of the people. So that definitely help them to understand what is music, and which music is more valuable to express people's feeling, people's emotion, and how uh, people can contribute to uh, to express the pain and agony of the people. People can participate in the pain and agony of the people. And second thing, we can create space to learn music. Um, as Anna said, Parai. We can ask, we can encourage the people to learn the music, Parai, and we can motivate them to play in the church services, in the public spheres, wherever the spaces are available. And we can encourage the future generation even to take up the music in a higher level, not to keep aside one music separately and lifting up other music in other side. So this is a kind of notion that we are differentiating the music and making hierarchies. So we have to impose an idea that all musics are needed, all musics are important, and the importance of the value of the indigenous music, how they express uh, the the heart of the people, the life of the people, that should be motivated, that should be encouraged to grasp in the minds of the people.
Yeah, thank you, Kani. Actually, you touched base the important areas that we are not leaving anyone, but how far the space for us to enter into the Brahminical music is always a challenge. I know people. There is a recent book that Amita shared with all of us about the mridangam making, and there is another movie also. One of Rajiv Menon's recent movie on the drum making, and he how he learned mridangam is also close to that book. Yeah, thank you. But as I'm not just negating Sebastian and Sons by T.M. Krishna is the book. Thank you so much, Amita, for helping me to name the book. Yeah, that's important. Yeah, as we see here in Brooklyn Raga Massive, we get space. That is something very important. That their ongoing engagement in the social justice. Uh, so it is not just they give the space, but giving us an opportunity to make them think and revisit their own commitment towards how they make music. So that is something very important for me. As Samson said, he's not just negating both of those Western and Brahminical music, taking sides, but it is the way that his engagement with the oppressed music to be mainstreamed. It's not negate. It's not just rejecting or negating. So it is engagement, but still, uh, it's one type of reclamation that I learned from here in US is that sometimes we sing this song. We are marching in the light of God. We are marching in the light of God. For those people who march are those who are at the military. Those military people only march. So it is more colonial language that we use. So some of the Indians, they don't sing that song saying that it is so colonial. I don't like that song. But after coming to US, I learned seeing that people say, yeah, I can also march. I can also be part of that march. And that is how they reclaimed it. But still, this post-colonial mind, like Indians, they say there is a trauma, and the same thing applied to the music when they are neglected. I've been rejected in the choir, church choir. I was beaten in the church choir because I was a small boy sitting in the front row. At the back, one of the high caste fellow do this to my ears while I was singing, and then I started fighting him, and I was thrown out of the church choir. I'm being son of a pastor. This happened because of my caste identity, and that is how the Western music and also the Brahminical music rejects my contribution because I sing very well during my school days. My throat was not broken at that time. I used to sing alto at that time. So people liked my singing, but I had to come out of the choir because of the oppression that I faced. And that continued till now. My music is always rejected. My music is not given space. But I don't care, but keep on engaging the music in different ways, like how we are doing right now with Brooklyn Raga Massive. I would like to also give the time to Reverend Samson to respond to how we are breaking the hierarchy, how we are going to engage this.
Thank you, Reverend Imman. I would like to quote about the Tamil Sangam literatures question raised by you. There are so many places are there, but one place I would like to mention. In Devaram, a devotional song composed by highly revered Saiva saints on the Lord Shiva around the 6th century AD. There are references to Parai being played inside the temple sanctums. கருவறை கருவறைக்குள்ளே பறை அடித்து சிவனை வழிபட்ட குறிப்புகள் தேவாரத்தில் இருக்கின்றன. பறை வந்து தமிழ் சங்கத்தில் பயன்படுத்திருக்கிறாங்க. பட் லேட்டர் already I mentioned during 14th or 13th century only the parai was neglected. And personally, I have been training students to paraiyattam and other folk arts as a special event for colleges and the school festivals. And that time I have noticed that it has been eagerly attended by students from all walks of life without any discrimination. I am the witness for that. There are many students from other caste identity also are eagerly come and eagerly attended, eagerly they are seeking to learn the parai in my experience. As pastor, I also provide folk arts training in the churches, youth fellowship members to perform from time to time in the church festivals. And it is my strong belief and hope that this cult can be implemented if there is a proper teaching in even in the city churches as well. We can do. I already done in my experience. Some of the city churches I have already experienced the performance of parai. People are eagerly awakened and eagerly shown interested to learn the parai. We are only to break the the barriers. But why I preferred this folk art means I do not say I don't like classical and I don't like Western. Already I said I composed many songs in classical songs. Even now also I can sing, but I composed many Western songs. But my prefer is there are so many peoples to promote Western and the classical, but the scarcity here for folk arts, because the bad time or the sad thing is the indigenous people also neglected the parai. This is what my pain. ஆண்டவரோ அவருடைய மக்களிடம் வந்தார், அவர்களோ அவர்களை ஏற்றுக்கொள்ளவில்லை என்பது போல யாருடையது இந்த பறை அப்படின்னு இந்த உலகம் புறம்பே தள்ளுதோ அந்த மக்களே இந்த பறையை வந்து ஒரு விதமான தீட்டான நினைக்கிற அந்த பார்வை. இட் வாஸ் வெரி டேஞ்சர். We can face the against ideologies. We can overcome.
I will quickly translate.
Sorry. Yes.
Reverend Samson said that,
Yes,
in the Bible.
Thank you.
To which language?
Oh, I'm sorry. Technology. Yeah, ரொம்ப நன்றி அபிதா. Yeah, the sharing was like in the Bible, in Gospel of Luke, Jesus Christ himself says to his own people that, I have come for you, but you will not accept me. The same way, the people's music, parai is not nowadays accepted by the own Dalit community there, because of the pathological notion that is attached to it. If I take this parai, I will become an untouchable. So I don't want to be identified as a paraya, or a Dalit, and that is how, this parai is being neglected now. So the preference for the parai is very important. That is the translation for Reverend Samson's say.
Thank you, Reverend Immanuel.
That's
Yeah. In progress time, the parai is considered as a musical art to express freedom. It is very attractive and active art form combining dance, percussion, and singing. The Tamil diaspora, like us, is emerging this instrument as a mark of our liberation. It is a common people music, so there are no boundaries to certain freedom of expressions. It is an emerging popular form of art among all the Tamil diasporas. It is unique and has a great value in unifying the Tamil diasporas with all other musics. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, both of you, for creatively engaging with your own ideas and experience of how we need to break the barriers of hierarchies and structures in doing music and make it more inclusive to everyone, to enjoy the divine wisdom that is in the music. Um I would like to ask a final question, probably because we are nearing the ending time. So, how this your what is the faith aspect in music making? We are Christians, and as panelists, we three both are part of the church and seminary. So, how our faith actually shaped our music making beyond barriers. There is the aspect of beyondness. It's for everyone. It's not just for Christians and not just for people who come to the church, but how we can make church music that can be easily accepted by the other faith communities. When I say other, that's always problematic. Uh, so I don't want to make someone of the other, but when we live in a pluri-faith communities, how we become inclusive within our faith commitments, how can we make music? So the question is faith music. How does it go to make it more inclusive?
Yes, actually, through music, my faith has been built. When singing songs, uh, when I praise God through songs, my faith has been built. So now my faith shaping my contribution to music and the knowledge of music. So in that way, through my faith, I believe that the music is not for the cause of religion or ritual, but it is an effective tool that can deliberately shout for justice. So in that way, my faith has been shaped by music because it addresses the sins of injustices, so to say, anger, hunger, slavery, and the oppression, fear of the oppressed community. So, for example, we all speak about Theophilus Paul, a great person who encouraged Dalits to take pride in performing parai. So, So it is an instrument. We can say the music is an instrument of resisting the social oppression. For a, moreover, the indigenous music is the expression of voice of the people of the land. That is what we understand. And in India, this folk music is considered as a tool of resisting oppression, and especially the Dalit folk music is a music of liberation. So through my faith, I just come to know that the music is a tool of social justice movement.
Thank you so much for enlightening us that the music is a tool of social justice. Thank you, Reverend Samson.
Yeah, I am also agree with our sister. Uh, the music shape us in faith. Uh, we also noted and quoted biblical uh, quotings to the people, even for Parai. If you take Mattalam and Kinnaram, Mattalam and Kinnaram. The Kinnaram is a kind of round shape drum. Even today, the Muslim peoples were used, are continuously using with that instrument. And we can, it is also my strong belief that the music cannot break my faith. The music instruments, even any instrument, cannot stop my faith journey. I strongly believe the music can improve my faith. The music can enlighten my faith journey. That is what I love music, particularly Parai. Thank you.
Love all of your contribution. Now I'm going to sing one song for all the audience that, we as Christians, we as Dalits, sometimes limited, towards Parai and Parai music or the folk music, but we're also well versed in Carnatic as well as making Western music well. So I'm gonna sing one of my friend's composed song, which is in Tamil, and I also would like to connect that with two cinema songs um, uh, that are very popular. இறையே சரணம் உயிரே சரணம் இறையே சரணம் உயிரே சரணம் வாழ்வாய் ஊற்றாய் வந்தாய் சரணம் வாழ்வாய் ஊற்றாய் வந்தாய் சரணம் படைத்தாய் காத்தாய் தாயே சரணம் படைத்தாய் காத்தாய் தாயே சரணம் ஜனனி ஜனனி ஜெகம் நீ அகம் நீ ஜெகத்தாரணி நீ பரிபூரணி நீ பகத்தாரணி நீ பரிபூரணி நீ ஜனனி ஜனனி ஜெகம் நீ அகம் நீ. அசுதங்கம் புது வெள்ளி மாணிக்கம் மணி வைரம் இவையாவும் ஒரு தாய்க்கு ஈடாகுமா? பொருள் மீது பொருள் வைத்து கேட்டாலும் கொடுத்தாலும் கடை தன்னில் தாயென்று கிடைக்காதம்மா. பொருளோடு புகழ் வேண்டும் மது நல்ல தாயே உன்னருள் வேண்டும் என இணைந்து மாதங்கள் கருத்தோடு இணைத்தால் நீ பட்ட பெரும்பாடு அறிவேனம்மா. உன்னாலே பிறந்தேனே இறையே சரணம் உயிரே சரணம் இறையே சரணம் உயிரே சரணம் இறையே சரணம் உயிரே சரணம் வாழ்வாய் உத்தாய் வந்தாய் சரணம் வாழ்வாய் உத்தாய் வந்தாய் சரணம் படைத்தாய் காத்தாய் தாயே சரணம். And that is one of my friend who is very close to me, composed in Tamil, and that is also called Kalyani Ragam. So I know the Ragam. That was like Ilayaraja's favorite Ragam, and he made many beautiful songs in that raga. So I was just influenced by that music and inspired by that music. So I make music like that. And I also time for the audience to ask questions about our conversation. I invite now open the camera of Amita to summarize our talk to the audience, and also take up now.
Thank you so much, everybody. That was so that was so rich. That was so informative and so enlightening. I think it was very expanding of how we understand the boundaries between our experiences, the kinds of music we can practice. And I know that even though my camera was off, I was saying like, "Yep," the whole time everyone was saying things. So I was in agreement with a lot of it. Unfortunately, we have no questions from the audience, but I hope it's okay if I take a few minutes to summarize. I think to sort of bring your discussion into the context of our audience a little bit. With just some observations again. So my background is, as I mentioned before, I grew up in the Hindu diaspora in the United States, which is predominantly Brahmin / upper caste, or I should say dominator caste or oppressor caste. So our understanding of what constitutes South Asian music is very limited. It is limited to what the Brahminical hierarchy has really brought with them and has really popularized here, which includes Hindustani and Carnatic music, predominantly for members of the Indian diaspora. And I know Immanuel knows this, but I'm half Punjabi, half Telugu, and my dad grew up in Chennai. But I only know how to say Nandri and Thayasadam. Those are like the only words I know in Tamil. So like, I'm a really bad Tamil person. But I think one of the really interesting things that I've learned throughout this discussion is, again, like how limited my understanding is just having studied Carnatic music for a large part of my childhood. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Carnatic music, one of the core tensions that was referenced in this conversation, but I would really like to make explicit, is that Carnatic music has, in the last century or so, become the dominion of Brahmin practitioners, largely in South India, and thereby also in the United States and other parts of the South Indian diaspora. And it's critical that we acknowledge this, because even from a poetic standpoint, from an artistic standpoint, when people learn Carnatic music, they generally learn from other upper caste or dominator caste practitioners. And as well, they learn almost exclusively a body of work that is composed by Brahmin composers. When you think about the Carnatic trinity of Tyagaraja, Shyamasastri, and Dikshita, like those are all upper caste men. So all of the works that people learn, even in their very formative years as Carnatic students, is Hindu and is, caste derivative in this way. So even though, speaking from the perspective of Brooklyn Raga Massive, the raga itself, as Kani was saying earlier, music is music. The raga is but a series of notes. It's a mode in which we can compose numerous things. But if the mechanism for us learning ragas is so dominated by these specific caste narratives, how do we extract the liberative power of the raga and the liberative power of those notes from the context that we learn them, which is so couched in, again, this very caste specific narrative? And I think it becomes really critical that we, speaking again from a oppressor caste perspective, speaking from a Hindu perspective in the diaspora, internally reflect on how we make this very concrete and very, how do I put it, intentional move away from the Carnatic music institutions that have limited us to thinking that Carnatic music is just, or even Carnatic and Hindustani music are just Hindu music, when it is absolutely not the case. And here I would like to just make a quick reference to the works of scholars like Dr. Davesh Soneji, Nritya Pillai, T.M. Krishna, who talk extensively about caste in Carnatic music, but also foreground the contributions of non-Brahminical composers, artists, as well as non-Hindu artists, understanding that there is actually a wide body of work in the early 1900s brought together by Christian and Muslim practitioners of Carnatic music. I think it's really important that we name that the faith perspectives brought in this panel by Reverend Immanuel, Reverend Samson, and Kani were super important for us to, highlight again what these differences in perspectives and experiences are. And I think just in the interest of, leaving some space in case Kani, Reverend Samson, and Immanuel want to share a few more words, I did want to sort of parse two solutions that came out of this important conversation. When I'm asked, how do we intentionally move away from the privileges in classical music circles in South Asia? I think there's two solutions to keep in mind. The first, as I think Kani mentioned before, but also Reverend Samson, you did as well, is increasing access and spaces to spaces of musical education, as well as increasing access to a greater plurality of music. So the music not specifically being Carnatic or Hindustani, but also what would it look like to encompass more indigenous traditions, as well as more folk traditions, so on and so forth. I think this is materially a change that we can all venture toward. Immanuel, I would like to thank you for thanking BRM for this space. However, I just would like to note, as a point of us unworking our own hierarchy, I hope that this isn't a space that you feel needs to be given or granted to you, but I hope that rather it can become a more porous space and a more interactive space where these conversations can be continued throughout all of our events and really be an intention that we hold with us. Simultaneously, I would like to name, as Reverend Samson was sharing about his experience opening spaces of paraiyattam classes to the community and it being visited by people of all castes, I think it's important that we return to a key point of experience that Immanuel brought up, which is that these spaces can also be susceptible to hijacking and appropriation by people who have not experienced the forms of oppression that are specifically being utilized as tools, or specifically utilize this music as a tool. And I can think now, Juneteenth was just this past weekend. We can think a lot about how the appropriation of African American music in America has become a critical case study for how white people, again, can really like take this form of music, which became so critical to how the African American communities express themselves, and turn it into their own form of profit, turn it into their own forms of self-expression, which wouldn't be a bad thing if not for the fact that they are erasing and further marginalizing the experiences of the African American musicians who brought that music to them in the first place. So even as we increase this access as part of this first solution to moving away from hierarchies in our music, we still have to be intentional about holding on to where our privilege exists and how we need to make space, even within these spaces of increased access, to be honest to the contributors, to the originators of these traditions, and who needs to, no pun intended, sing forth when sharing this music, even if we are all doing it together. The more internal solution, a second solution I would like to bring up, speaks to, as Reverend Samson brought up, this bifurcation between pure and impure, this really unnecessary binary that we've constructed, which in a lot of ways, we've really toyed around with the tension between pure and impure in this conversation. We've talked about Western music versus indigenous music. We've talked about Carnatic music versus Dalit music. Even if you'll forgive me, I think even some people who would think of Christian music or Christian existence in India as being antithetical to Hindu existence in India could see that as being pure versus impure. But as we've sort of grappled with this conversation, we've heard about, Dalit practitioners studying Carnatic music. I know Emmanuel and I have had many conversations about our fraught relationship with the music of Ilayaraja, but it's part of that tension, right? It's part of, even in the Church of India, Western hymns can be a source of comfort. They can be one form of expression, as well as folk music, provided that you're making equal space for both. In our space at Brooklyn Raga Massive in particular, I would like to sort of talk about how purity and impurity have really transformed how people see themselves as musicians. In order for you to be a Hindustani musician, for example, you have to be trained in a gharana. You have to be an exponent of one gharana's style. You have to have blessings from your guru to go out and perform. You have to be at a certain level where you're doing manodharma. You have to know this many ragams. You have to be able to perform this many pieces in order to be a professional and respected musician. And that in and of itself is a preservation of purity and a preservation of hierarchy, because those opportunities to study to that extent, the ability to sort of craft a stage persona, a repertoire, are really limited to people that have the access to teachers and the access of educational space to be able to define themselves as musicians. So to make this a little bit short, I would just request that if you are watching this today, no matter where you are in your musical journey, I would like you to take a step back from what you see as being a pure transmitter of a tradition. What does it mean to, in fact, be uncomfortable with impurity in your practice, of maybe not knowing exactly what you're supposed to know, delving into other genres, learning from other teachers, and really breaking down within yourself, where are you comfortable saying that you can do something that isn't exactly what the Carnatic or Hindustani institutions want you to do. And I think Brooklyn Raga Massive challenges this in its fusion music, but I would invite you to do it at your individual level as well, and not just in the collective. To just give one final sentence about this, I really just want to extend a massive thanks once again to all the panelists. As Kani said, before, music is music, but that doesn't, sort of a universal love of music does not absolve us from the responsibilities to understand what we can what we need to practice and who we need to make space for. And at the very end, I would just like to say, Kani said that for her, music is a tool of social justice. And Reverend Samson, you said that music cannot stop your faith journey. And I would like to revisit the words of a Muslim chaplain, Yasmin Yonis, who is local to Washington, D.C., who said that for her, justice is faith. And if you think about it in that way, if music is a tool of your faith, that can be a pretty limiting understanding of faith and justice. And if music cannot stop your faith journey as well, that can be maybe enhanced a little bit to say that music cannot stop your social justice journey if your faith is justice. So wherever you are, hopefully you're able to integrate your music and really tessellate your musical world and find a space where the right music makes sense for you in your social justice journey. So I just wanted to once more thank all of our incredible panelists for this really rich and vibrant discussion. I would also like to just give a retroactive apology to Immanuel, because I realized I did not give him a proper introduction at the beginning of this. I thought you would give yourself one, and I apologize. But if you will allow me to give it right at the end, all of you will know at this point that Immanuel is a brilliant scholar and musician. But just to give a formal introduction at the end of this panel. Reverend Immanuel is an ordained minister in the Tamil Evangelical Lutheran Church, and he is currently pursuing his PhD at the Lutheran School of Theology in Chicago in the field of ethics, church, and society. He self-describes as an artivist, and in addition to his music, he is also a very talented visual artist as well. So I hope you will see not only Immanuel, but also all of our panelists more in their music. And with that, I would just like to invite, if there's any final words from any of you, please feel free. Any final words, any final songs, we would love to take some time to hear them.
Thank you for the generous introduction at the end, Amita. Yeah, so thank you so much for, as I said in the beginning, that we are given space. What I mean to say is this collaborative work towards justice always is appreciable, and I wholeheartedly thank your openness, right? So sometimes that is the fragility everybody has. It's also part of the privileges that as you mentioned, and thank you for engaging all with us, and as you all know that Reverend Samson Raja has been engaging with this Dalit art forms for several years, and he will be a good resource person to teach Tamil folk arts, Dalit folk arts to BRM, if BRM is willing to make him one of the teachers to learn the music from different cultures and different perspectives, to make it more inclusive. And as you see that we have these voices like melodious, but there is a open singing, open throat singing, which is a folk singing, and I think Reverend Samson will sing that song, that Samatvam Sanamallam Vandiruchi Sanda Sattam Edumilla Sami Ni Vandude, the invocation song, which is written by Paratai, and I invite Reverend Samson to sing that song with open throat of how it will be like.
Thank you once again. It is my privilege to sing this song, which was composed by our mentor, our guru, Paratai. சனமெல்லாம் வந்துருச்சு, சண்டை சத்தம் ஏதும் இல்ல, சாமியே நீயும் வந்து விடு, வந்து விடு, வந்து விடு, வந்து விடு, பங்காளி முறையெல்லாம் பாங்குடனே வந்துருச்சு. பாருலக பெத்தவரு பரிவுடனே வந்துவிடு வந்துவிடு வந்துவிடு. தண்ணி போட்டா மயக்கம் வரும், அந்த தருதலைக்கோ துன்பம் வரும். சண்டை போட்டா பகை வளரும், சாமி உங்க கோபம் வரும், கோபம் வரும், கோபம் வரும். ஒண்ணு பட்டா நீ வருவ, ஒத்தாச பண்ணிருவ. கொன்னு போட்டோம் வேத்துமைய, கோலமுடல் வந்து விடு வந்து விடு வந்து விடு. தேங்க்யூ once again, Emmanuel.
Thank you so much, Anna. Kani, you want to sing a folk song or a song that you composed recently, not just bhajan, but different song?
Yeah, actually, the song lyrics I don't remember. So one last final word, I just want to say that as we all agree that music is a tool of liberation. Yes, if there is no music, there is no liberation that we need to accept. So music in everything, everything in music. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Amita. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Kani. Thank you, Amita. And once again, I thank you, Brooklyn Raka. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
And thank you all so much. And thank you once again to Reverend Immanuel Karunakaran for bringing us all together in this space. I would just like to acknowledge once again the limitations that I have as the curator of this space is even for all of my good intentions in wanting to open up the space, there are limits to our knowledge. And for that, I'm really grateful for Immanuel for bringing his expertise and convening such a wonderful group of people and coming up with the questions. And I didn't have to do anything for this event. Immanuel was like, I got it. And it delivered. So thank you so much for all of you. And thank you again, Immanuel, for your hard work on this.
Thank you, Amita. Thank you for the recognition and the acknowledgement. It is very, very heartening to listen from our friends back in India. I know them personally, but I have not have many conversations with them. Kani spoke in one of my podcasts where how the women liberation is important. So that was like a crosstalk in the church. And I know Reverend Samson for a long time, but we have not spoken, and this is the first time we could speak to each other through this. So we've been connected now, and in future we will be definitely working together in more instances that how we can make it more meaningful to make music beyond structures, make it inclusive for everyone. Thank you so much, Praveen and Neil, for all that you have done for us.
Of course, the pleasure is all ours. With that, thank you everyone for attending. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us on social media, drop YouTube comments with your questions, and we will get in touch with our panelists to provide some answers if that is something that would be helpful for you. But this certainly won't be our last time meeting. So with that, I would just like to say thank you once again. And I will see you all on the flip side. Okay. Thank you so much. Ramba Nandri.
Thank you.